here's an introduction to Cedric Gray. One of two guys. The next two picks we're going to talk about were guys that I tweeted out from our do and don't draft guide list for day 3 ahead of the Saturday proceedings and said, would love for these guys to be Titans. And we hit on 2 of them. The first of which is Cedric Gray, who's only 21 years old, a 3-star recruit coming out of high school, has receiver, kick returner, and basketball background in high school. And he was the only Power 5 player to average double-digit tackles per game in both 2022 and 2023. Looking at his seasons, in 21, he led the team in tackles. All of his seasons, by the way, spent with the University of North Carolina. He led the team in tackles in 2021, started the final 11 games that year and became a full-time starter from there on. In 2022, he had 145 tackles, 12 tackles for loss, 3 forced fumbles, 8 passes defended, and 2 interceptions, was first team All-ACC, led the ACC in tackles, and led the team in forced fumbles and tackles for loss. And then he had an encore performance in 2023, playing in all 12 of their games that season as well. 121 tackles, 11 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, so increased his impact on the quarterback significantly in his last year. 2 forced fumbles, 5 passes defended, and 1 interception. He was first team All-ACC again, led the team in tackles and forced fumbles again, and he ended up missing the bowl game as an opt-out at the end of the year. Measures at 6'1" and change, 234 pounds. Some strengths listed in Dan Brugler's scouting report. Solidly built for the position with proportionate arm length, above average speed to run down ball carriers to the sideline, always around the ball, flashing short area bursts into gaps, outstanding tackle production, terrific awareness and reaction quickness in zone coverage. That's a big deal. We'll talk more about his ability to cover in a moment. Responsible for 11 forced turnovers, 6 forced fumbles, and 5 interceptions over the last 3 seasons in college. Was a multi-year team captain in high school, 3 years, and in college, 2 years. The UNC defensive coordinator and linebacker coach Tommy Thigpen said of Gray, is an alpha male who loves football, crazy aggressive with a huge football IQ, experienced on special teams with 587 career snaps there, and he's durable. His 2023 opt-out from the bowl game was the first missed game of his entire college career. Some weaknesses here. He's mediocre in terms of play strength, and he needs to develop his bulk. Struggles to shed once he locks horns with a blocker, can be fooled when his sight lines are muddied, and does not have the recovery speed to make up ground after a misstep, and he can be outpaced on wheels and seam routes when asked to match routes in man coverage. Overall, the summary is that Gray may not be exceptional in any one area, but he's equal parts athletic and aggressive and is always in the vicinity of the football. He projects as a rotational NFL linebacker and special teamer who will compete for starting reps as a rookie. And Dane had him as a 4th-round grade, where the Titans ultimately got him.
Yeah, I think that's where you can start the conversation, right? Dane thinks that and that's what we kind of talked about him. Gray doesn't have any super trait that makes him stand out, right? You know, his 4.64 40 time, you can see that in the weaknesses there where, that recovery speed just isn't there. But, there's not a lot of knocks on his in the weakness section of where, his vision of the field is truly subpar. Of course, there are things the offense is always going to do to try to mess you up. And those are things that, may not be his fault entirely or things like that. But even though he is a 4th-round grade here, what makes Cedric Gray such a strong contender to be a day 1 starter as a 4th-round pick and potentially wear that green dot on the Titans defense?
Right, like with 4th-round players of any kind, you're not typically super confident they'll be a 1st-round or a day 1 starter on a football team. And if you are, it's usually because your team sucks. Now, in this case, a big part of it is because the Titans linebacker situation sucks. And so like that's, it's going to be he landed with one of the better situations in the entire league to fast track him to be a starter on day 1. He's also got that green dot ability, and that's the biggest thing here. You go back in the profile and you listen to his coach Tommy Thigpen saying he's got crazy huge football IQ. He's an alpha male. He loves football, and he's got, as Dane put it, terrific awareness and reaction quickness in zone coverage. He is the coverage reliable linebacker that the Titans desperately need. And because of that, I think that he's going to be at least going into camp, the number one he's going to be in the pole position on that second inside linebacker starting job, and it's going to be his to lose.
Yeah, and I think that there is a possibility to play devil's advocate, that he needs time to develop. And Kenneth says that, and this was reported earlier this week, that Amani Hooker has apparently
Amani Hooker.
spoken has apparently spoken up about wanting a shot at the green dot if they were to go that route where the green dot is not necessarily a Mike style linebacker in their kind of coverage.
Yeah,
If
I mean,
that
like,
were the case,
sure.
like if Amani Hooker tries it out and he also maybe doesn't end up for what it is, and Cedric Gray's not ready, could this be a thing where they once again do not really have a guy to truly wear that green dot going into the season? And look at some of the other guys who are on the board there, talk about some of the wide receivers, some of the tackle depth that was still there that makes this pick maybe a little bit of a reach.
I don't think so. Like, Amani Hooker speaking up, that came after one of Rand Carthen's press conferences this spring, where he said they're not necessarily needing the linebacker to do the job. You could have a player in the secondary wear the green dot. Like, it's possible for other positions to wear the green dot. And so he spoke up and said, "Let me give it a try, coach." He's a veteran on this defense, one of the few veterans that they have that have been with the Titans for a long time. He's going to know it as well as anybody else, and he's a smart guy, so I think he's capable of handling that. They have options. Like, that's what I see this as, is they've got at least one, but arguably two or more guys on this roster who are capable of being a bona fide green dot quarterback of the defense. And that's a good thing. They need that. And so while I still think Gray is the most likely to do it because he's the young player who's going to be here for the next 4 years at least, and he's got the upside to be that guy, and if they believe, like they said in the press conference, he's got the smarts to do it, they're going to let him try. I won't be shocked if it's him or a guy like Amani Hooker, but regardless, I don't think him being the green dot or not is going to be what keeps him out of being that starting coverage linebacker, that Mike style linebacker. I think that's going to be his job to lose, regardless of what's on his helmet.